What's going on, traders? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. So I thought I'm going to just start a new series on going through the markets in the evening just to see what we could potentially be looking for the market open again at 10 o'clock. So we're an hour in now at the time of recording to the current 4H candle. So this is the last 4H candle for the New York session. And I just thought it would be good because the channel's been a lot about trading strategies, concepts, different approaches. And I think that it's best now that I start focusing on being consistent with giving you insight on how you can look at the market as a whole, no matter what strategy you're trading. So for the next week, I'm going to be focusing on doing these outlooks on the market, just having a review of what we potentially could be trading, moving into the market open again at 10 o'clock. Now I say market open, but I just mean the next day or the new daily candle. And just show some zones that we can be looking for trades off of, no matter what strategy you're using. I think that's a great idea. Now, I've got the light on in the background, so if you see my sweaty forehead, I do apologize. Pretty hot running around this evening. But we've just settled down to do this, so I hope you enjoy it. If you're new to the channel, think about subscribing, turn on notifications, and hit that like button for me, guys. It really does a lot for the channel. It shows me that you appreciate the content, and it keeps me motivated to want to continue to do this. So we're going to be going over 10 pairs today, starting with British Pound USD, and then we'll work our way all the way down to New Zealand or USD. So I'm going to start off with a daily time frame. Definitely something different from me, but I do want to give you an overview of the whole market. So you can just get an idea of what we could be looking for. So the first thing that I want to focus on here is which directional bias is the market. That's pretty simple, right? We can see that the structure is down. Current behavior of the market has been pretty bullish. So if you were able to take advantage of that pound strength today, well done and congratulations. I was able to do that personally, trading pound JPY, and on the market open Sunday. I was able to get into some buys, and I held it for about 7 hours for a 6-hour return, which is my first trade of the week. To be brutally honest with you, that's enough for me to just kick back and chill for the whole week, but I will be looking for more opportunities, especially now that I am going to be sharing my views. So we can see that the overall structure of the market is down. The phase of the market right now looks like a pullback phase. You know, we want to be trading in both directions, especially if you're going to be looking at the daily time frame. And the best way we could be doing that is by focusing on trading single candles. So if we isolate the 12th of September and we go down to the 15-minute time frame, you can see here from the 12th of September that this overall structure has created what we could say an uptrend in the market, where the market's been pushing bullish, making higher highs and higher lows. And what I want you to be thinking about is that this single daily candle has created this intraday structure, giving us an opportunity to be able to trade it from an intraday perspective. So whether that be you're a key level trader, supply and demand trader, whether you are a break and retest trader, scaling down to the 1-minute time frame, 5-minute time frame, whatever it may be, there's opportunities for you to take advantage of. Anyway, back to the daily. I'm seeing that price is in a pullback phase. I'm not going to disregard the fact that we are in a downtrend. So that's really, really important. What I want to do is mark off my major low in the structure, and I want to mark off the area in the market where I believe price can come back to retest. And the reason why I want to do this is because we know that if price is in a downtrend, we make a lower low, potentially make a retest of the previous structure. And if we respect this structure, there's a very high chance we can continue bearish unless we break above 1771. So now breaking it down to the 4H time frame, you can see what I was saying anyway. The overall structure of the market for today has been illustrating an intraday uptrend. So we have our first higher low, our structural high, higher low, and higher high. So the overall momentum of this market is bullish. We have to continue to respect that. Until the market does one or two things, it finds some sort of resistance, and then we start breaking some of these structural high and lows, or we start forming a new push phase, lower high, potential continuation. But we're not doing that yet, and that is not our focus. So what are we going to be looking at? Well, moving into tomorrow, I think it's very important that we identify this key level here around 1771. Look what price did when it broke the structure previously. We had this massive rally to the downside, and this rally created a 300+ pip move. I mean, that's absolutely ridiculous, right? So as we're in an uptrend, what we have to do is respect this bullish sentiment. And what I will be looking for price to do is coming back to an intraday retest level in the market. You can be trading break and retest, you could be trading supply and demand, you can be trading two candle theory, whatever it is that you're trading. But what we want to be focusing on is a pullback, at least in this push phase, to potentially look for some trade ideas around 1640 for a potential continuation back up to 1768. Now, it doesn't need to come back. It can also break it as well. Keep that in mind, but that will be our focus. So it's getting down to the 1 hour time frame. Again, you can see this intraday trend where we had this 4 hour break. Once we had that break of structure, this is where we started to create the first level of support. This was the initial break of the structure, and again, a very nice break and retest here for a continuation bullish as part of this move, where price is failing to break these structural lows. And in actual fact, we did break it, but we broke straight back in. And that was last week around 1457. And then, as you can see here, we've got this very, very nice intraday hourly trend. So for those trading these kind of time frames, this is definitely something we want to be looking for in the next, I'd say by the time you watch it, in the next couple of hours. Looking for price to come back down to some of these areas here for potential retest at 1638 for a continuation higher. That will be a great plan of action, because then we put in the high and low, we create the retest at previous resistance or the structural high that was broken. There's a lot of force that's gone in here, so this gives us a good idea that there's buyers sitting in and around this area. What you want to be waiting for is for your confirmations. You want to be making sure that you're seeing those signals that you need to get into this trade. You're looking for a depletion of that bearish sentiment, indecision candles, looking for that bullish momentum candles, pin bars, looking for that exhaustion, and then potentially that continuation. So this is one play we could be looking for moving into the market open. Now we have a 30-minute intraday structure here. This is also a level in the market where you could potentially be looking for plays. At the moment, we can see price has been sitting around this level for quite some time. So we want to be mindful of that, especially for you lower time frame intraday traders. Around the 1670 mark. If we can respect this level, then there's also a very high chance we can see this continuing bullish. The range from this intraday structure back to the structural high, where we expect price to go as part of this daily movement, indicating pound strength, it's around 80 pips, which is huge. Again, look for your confirmations, make sure you've seen that depletion, and then potentially look for some trading opportunities. 15-minute time frame also supports that. We have a nice level here in the market where you can see prices holding. Again, we get a lot more information here, that depletion of that bearish sentiment, that bullish sentiment kicking back in. Again, a depletion of that bearish sentiment and that bullish sentiment kicking back in. Now, if you're an intraday trader, you're using, let's say, the 5-minute or the hourly, you want to be mindful of this, where a level gets created and a level gets respected, because once you start going down to your lower time frames, you can start putting the pieces of the puzzle together. And once you start to get this depletion and this shift in the market, you can now start saying to yourself, well, where can I expect price to go? Well, clearly, if we're not breaking these structural lows, then there's a very high chance we're going to come back to these structural highs. From the entry that you could have at this level, and you could have been waiting super patiently into the New York Stock Exchange Open, also, you could be looking for taking breaks above the highs here, straight back to the structural high for 20 pips. Slap a 10 lot on that, and you're laughing all the way to the bank for a day's work. Do you know what I mean? So be mindful. Could you be trading the resistance? Well, you could, but you don't want to go against the whole structure that we're starting to build, which is indicating that pound strength and bullish sentiment. So just be mindful of that. So as I said, I think I'll stick at the 15-minute with this analysis here, and 30-minute, 1 hour, 4 hour, to get an idea of where we could be potentially looking for our plays. Remember, the long-term target that we're looking for is back to the structural highs here around 1765. And it'll be really interesting to see if we can get there tomorrow at some point. As I said, it's a big range, 80 pips. You slap a 10 lot on that, and I think you're laughing all the way to the bank. All right. So that's my ideas on pound USD. Next pair we'll take a look at is pound JPY. We'll take a look at the daily again. And as you can see, in theory, we are still in an uptrend here. We did put in a structural low. We made a new high, and now we have higher lows. Look, we have sentiment of the market where it had been pushing bearish for a long period of time. You've got these lower lows, you've got these lower highs, but we've just wound up around this structural low here, as you can see, and we've just been failing to break it for quite a period of time. I think the last time we broke or attempted to break this low was in the middle of the year at June. I mean, and that's not too far away, I guess. But that is going to be our major structural low, and for our structural high, we're going to be working with this here. Where can we anticipate price to go? Well, after the break of this brick wall here, you can see this bullish sentiment has just really been pushing strong. We had an attempt to push bearish here off of this key level. You can see that the bears just couldn't keep up with it. They struggled. We have this depletion, and then look, we have this continuation. So I think it only makes sense based on pound strength that we can continue to look for these buys back to the upside. I'm starting off slowly from the daily, working my structural lows and highs, and then we'll start working into our 4H time frame. So with our 4H time frame, we've got a couple levels that we want to be working with here. Again, pretty similar to GU. We first have our retest level here. We have our structural low here, which we're not importantly worried about just yet. If we start moving back to the downside, I mean, this is where price can go, but we would much prefer to see price sitting above this level here around 166, just to maintain that sentiment of pound strength and see that consistency with that bullish sentiment in the market. So 166.23 is where I'm at with this one. There's not much more to look at here from a 4H perspective. Let's drop in our structural high. And let's head down to our hourly time frame. So from our hourly time frame, you can see here that we are consolidating right now. And there's a few things we can look at, I guess, from the hourly perspective. Again, we'd like to respect previous structural highs. We'd like to see price coming back to these levels for this retest and continuation, just to get that exhaustion out of the way before seeing this continue to fly up. But I do have an intraday play here that we have a structural high where prices failed to break. So if we do start to break above this, I think it would be a great idea to also look for those intraday retests for that continuation back to the upside. If we measure this range from the break back up, wow, we have 127 pip moves. Oh yeah, I'm saying wow, but this is GJ at the end of the day, right? So this is also a good play, looking for these moves. Now with 128 pip range, right? Think about this, guys. If you're using a decent stop loss with good risk reward ratio, even if you attempt to jump in this a couple of times and it doesn't work out in your favor, you know, you're using good risk to reward. You can take a couple of L's and then you can just take the ride up, right? You want to be holding these trades back to the highs of the majors, seeing if we can get that big reward for a small risk. And I think this is a great idea. Now, if price starts to break the structure, then I guess we'd have to start seeing the correlations with GU and potentially some of the yen strength pairs like EJ, AJ, New Zealand dollar JPY, to see if the yen is strengthening. But as of now, there is nothing to suggest any bearish sentiment. Even though we may have an exhaustion, I still think the patient game is to look for those buys off of 166.23 or potentially 166.92. Scaling down to the 30-minute time frame, I don't think we're going to find anything more here going any lower. So I'm going to stick at the hourly time frame with this one. I'm very happy with it, and I think this is what I'm going to be focusing on moving into tomorrow. Next pair we'll take a look at is gold. So on the daily time frame, I mean, you can look at the structure here. It is screaming to us that we are bearish. Gold has been doing quite a bit recently. By the way, guys, this is not a trend line. This is just to illustrate that the structure is down, okay? But gold has been doing a bit recently. We've had some good movement from it. We haven't broken this structural low since the 20th of July. So just under a month away, or well, sorry, 2 months away. Which isn't too bad. I'm seeing bullish sentiment off of this structural low. Is it important for me right now? I'm not sure, to be honest with you. I think my focus will just be to mark the previous structural high here. This is where we previously had the retest of the structure. So once we started this higher low, structural high, higher low, structural high, higher low formation, we eventually broke the higher low, which now invalidates this uptrend or short-term uptrend in this major downtrend. And we have this bearish sentiment again with the break, simple retest, simple trading back down to a structural low. So there's a few things we can look out for here. I am seeing potentially buys moving forward because as we scale down to the 4-hourly time frame, you're going to start to see again a shift in the structure from being bearish. We have a really nice structural low where price creates the level, and then we have a price respecting that level as price creating that structural low and then price respecting that level. What we're looking for in this structure as part of the structural lower high, potential lower low is an area in the market where price is finding some sort of resistance. to maintain that bearish sentiment, which is this information here. Again, we attempted, expecting price to come back to the lows or even lower, but instead, what have we done? We've put in a structural high, higher low, structural high, higher low, and now we're attempting to make that new higher high. So for me, I'm going to be continuing to look for buys on gold moving into tomorrow. What would I like to see? Well, we've broken the structure for the first time in a long time. We've broken the brick wall. We've created that depletion of that bearish sentiment and now bullish sentiment stepping into the market. I would love to see 1720 be respected, and then I'd like a shift of that movement back to the upside off of this level. If we go down to the hourly time frame, what you'll start to see here is price creating a push phase, exhaustion phase. And what you will see is that we have lots of wick rejection areas here where price previously has attempted to break these structures and failed. We had a breakout and a break back in. So this information I'm regarding as an indecision in the market from a high time frame perspective. So I'm focusing on this area. I know we could be moving them higher. I know we could be focusing on retest at these levels, but for me, I don't believe in them. I don't believe that these are the major reaction levels. And I think I'd want something more substantial to potentially come back to the area where it previously broke, knowing that where the bullish sentiment is continuing that ride and then seeing some sort of reaction off of this level. Now, guys, when I say this doesn't mean it's necessarily going to happen. This is just my opinion, right? And this is how I personally trade when I'm looking at key levels in the market. I also focus a lot on behavior, currency strength, identifying momentum and volume. So I'm just giving you my opinion. If you choose to follow it, that is completely fine. If you don't, you don't. That is also fine. But I'm very interested to see price coming back to this area here, respect it, and see if we can get that continuation back to the upside. Now, remember, this is the structural high and low in this formation here. This is where price put in the lower high from an intraday perspective, double top, failed that double top, and this is where the volume kicked in. So I would say to you, you could be looking in and around here and here, always remembering this is an area, not a single level in the market. So if we do start piercing through this, stay patient, guys. We see lots of reaction, potential buyers sit here. We can start looking for some potential movements. Because of the structure and the wicks and the breakout and the breakback-ins, I think, again, I'm going to stop at the hourly time frame on this one as opposed to scaling down any further. Next pair we'll take a look at is USD JPY. Now, if we're anticipating gold to go up, we should be anticipating USD JPY to go down. We have a lacking correlation here because we can see the sentiment of USD being strong versus the yen. We're seeing the USD weakness trading against the pound. So it's a bit contradictory. We had a daily movement to the upside today, this morning. So we had a gap down and a bullish movement to the upside. And if any of you are focused on fibs here, you can see that we have come back to, I'd say 50%, whatever it is, 61.2 or 62.8, whatever that level is. Anyway, I'm not, if you are fib guys or ladies, if I got those numbers wrong, forgive me. But what I'm trying to illustrate here is a bearish candle, a daily candle in anticipation of the next candle to be bearish in line with that bearish momentum, USD weakness, and potentially yen strength. So we're looking for price to go bearish after the gap down, bullish sentiment, we have a depletion. So if we scale down to the 4 hourly time frame, you will see for most part of the day, we had this trend to the upside. You'll notice the higher low here in this structure has now been broken, indicating that bearish sentiment. And what do we have? We have a retest of that structure, which is the first lower high in the sequence in anticipation of a new lower low. So what I'll be looking for is a continuation of this as of now, unless we start breaking above again. This is the area that I'm very interested in, around 143.69. A really nice retest of this structure, and then looking for a continuation back to the downside. What I want to mark here, we don't really have it, so I'll use a 4 hourly for this, is our retest level and our structural low to create our range. Then we'll start scaling down to the hourly time frame to see what's happening here. You can see that behavior was bullish. We start making lower highs, failing to make new highs in this formation. Finally, we break below 143.69, and then you can see the strong bearish move to the downside. We had that retest. And this is why it's very important to make sure that you're identifying what is happening in the market today, because around 7 o'clock this morning, so pre-London Open, if you scale down, let's say to a 15-minute time frame, you can start to see information here where you get early signs of this bullish depletion, bearish sentiment kicking back in, depending on what time frame you trade down to, knowing that this area here at 143.69 is a retest level in the market off of the back of the previous bearish behavior, which was instigated last week, Friday, in anticipation of the continuation of that. You wait patiently, you wait for price to get back to this level, you look for your first signs of information, you place in your stop loss wherever you put it. If you scale down further, you scale down further. It really doesn't matter to me. Let's say a 20 pip stop loss in this, and then you have potential targets back down to low. Look at the risk reward on this. A worst case scenario, even if you went back down to the gap, which is this information here, you get a 1.5. Okay, incredible. Now let's go back to the 30-minute. We're looking for price to come back here. I don't think I have anything further to add to this. I still think we're bearish on this. I'm looking for 143.69. If I'm thinking gold bullish, I'm thinking USD JPY bearish. Be patient, wait for the market to create a new daily candle. See if we get this pullback, which will be the wick that forms first in anticipation of the continuation of that bearish sentiment that hasn't sustained, as we're starting to see this depletion with this movement here. Next pair that we'll take a look at is Euro Yen. Now, we're saying that USD is weak, Yen is showing signs of strength. From a daily perspective, again, you can see last week, Friday, we did close bearish. Now, which we've been trying to break this level since June again, right? We're tempted to break today. Look, if it closes above, it closes above. Euro has shown signs of strength. And if you guys were able to catch that Euro run this morning, really, really well done. Congratulations, because that was such a big move. And to identify that and take advantage of it is really, really big. I have seen that we have seen Yen weakness based on pounds movement as well. We're not sustaining though, which kind of gives me the idea that we potentially are going to have this failure to break the high. We can't say for sure just yet. We have to wait for this daily candle to close. But 144.22 is going to be a very interesting level for two reasons. If we close above, then we look for buys, right? If we don't close above or we get that rejection, it is important that you make sure you at least wait for a 4-hourly candle to sustain the break above this level, to make sure that this bearish depletion, this pressure that's in the market is not going to continue creating that top wick for the new daily candle and then flushing the market down. I'm going to continue to watch what happens with Euro USD, and I'm going to continue to watch what happens with USD JPY. As of now, I still think that, well, I think we're bearish. Let's go to the 4 hour and see what's happening anyway. 4 hour tells us otherwise. So, you know, as I said, let's just be patient. I guess we have broken above 144 here. We are sustaining that movement. Currently, we are creating that bullish sentiment again. So from a 5-minute perspective, you'll see price failing to break. Okay, from a 5-minute perspective, we are lacking in a lot of volume, and that is bound to be the case at this time. I would say this, right? If I'm going to look for buys, I'm going to play on the side of caution with this one. I think there's so much easier plays with GU and GJ, if I'm honest with you, even gold. But I think I'm going to want to break a 145.64 for buys. And if we then start breaking back into the structures where we failed to break since June the 7th, then I'm happy to look for the sells below 144.22. I'll continue to scale down here and see if we can start piecing this puzzle together a little bit more. So from a hourly perspective, we've broken above this high. This is a new structural high, and we anticipate this to be the higher low, right? So this is the information that we're going to be looking for. In terms of structural targets, if this is the structural high, and we do respect this level, then this is the range you'll be looking for back to the upside. So this is 100+ pips again, guys. You don't have to be first into the market. You can patiently wait for the market to speak to you. Again, if you go down to the 15-minute, what you're going to want to see is you're going to want to see a shift in this structure, a failure to break, the new structural high to be put in, and then you're going to be looking for that continuation retest of wherever that high gets put in before the pullback, right? So that's the patient game. Now, in terms of what it is doing now, geez, this is tough, this one. I mean, like, look, I want to stick to my guns with it. I will still happily look for buys with a structural shift. If not, then I'm going to look for that lower high shift back to the downside. So I don't want to confuse you. I'm looking at this from a higher time frame, lower time frame perspective, trying to piece the puzzle together. If you have any input on this one on Euro Yen, tell me what your thoughts are on it, because I mean, I don't trade it often. That shouldn't hinder me from analyzing this, but there's just a bit of conflict with the sentiment of the market that I'm looking at here. And I'm seeing weakness in the yen, meaning I can see bullish sentiment. And then with where are we at? Euro yen, I'm also seeing strength in the euro, but I'm also seeing that there is, from the high time frame perspective, we haven't broke this high and we have this depletion. So there's a chance that we respect it. So, okay, look, this is me being honest with you. Be patient, just be patient. Push buyers, look for that shift off at this level. I wouldn't look any lower than this. I think if we start breaking through 144.22, we go down. If we can maintain above it and we start making new highs, higher lows, retest, then we go up. That's my opinion. Let's keep it at that, because that gave me a headache, kind of. Let's move on to Euro USD. From a daily perspective, this kind of confirms what I'm saying, right? So the whole day, we've had that initial move on Euro strength. We already know that we can see a sentiment on Euro Yen of potentially Euro weakness because we haven't broken that structural high. If you look at the structure here as well, you can see that it is in a downtrend. So we anticipate Euro to sink and go in the same direction. And if this sustains the structural high, this bullish candle, then I would be like, okay, cool, we're going up. But we're not, and neither are we on Euro Yen. So if we mark the lower high in this formation, look where we come back to, a level in the market. It lines up with the brick wall here and a reaction. 2 points of confluence, absolutely gorgeous, in a downtrend. And you can see here, 3 points of confluence. This is a great area to have been looking for sells if you were patiently waiting for that. Now we get this reaction. Let's mark our structural low. Not that that's important right now. I doubt we'll get a candle flush to the downside. And let's go to the 4H. Very nice. So now we're respecting the previous structural lower high in this formation. After we went into consolidation, we have this break above. So this is very important. After the break above, we retest the structure and continue back to the structural high. Initial move to the upside with that euro strength, and now the question is, are we going to see that shift back to the downside as part of the high time frame confluence? So that is why we're saying on euro yen, let's see if we break higher to continue for buyers, or break lower to continue to look for sell. And it does kind of line up with euro USD, so I was on the right path there. So for me, what am I looking for? Well, look, we're in an intraday uptrend. We have to continue to respect this structure for now, looking for these buys. That will also support euro yen buys if we form that structure. If we don't respect this structure, then what I'm going to be looking for in this formation is I'm going to be looking for my intraday pullback, lower highs, continuations back down to 0.052. So either way, for the retest, we have 123 pips this way. Let's say we get a lower high, and then we have about 95 pips this way. I hope those that are not maybe as familiar with structure as some people are, what I'm saying here makes sense to you. Okay. Now, the only reason why you really get this is because you don't have a bias in the market that really illustrates a strength or a weakness. Okay. So when you don't have a strong sentiment, you get a directional shift in either or direction that could flip in a day. And you've seen that bullish sentiment, then we have that depletion. Whilst GU and GJ, we've had that maintained because of pound strength. So that would then suggest that USD is weak, and that will suggest yen is weak. But then we've got to consider that euro may be strong or euro may be weak, which means that can also shift the market in the opposite direction. So if you were going to trade a certified pair today, you would have been trading pound, right? If you're looking for a certified directional bias with euro USD, it is not significant because there hasn't been a price hasn't maintained that strength for the day, so it's given us a conflicting bias. So this is why we have to do this. Let's go down to the 1 hour time frame. I'm looking here for that first lower high in this downtrend, right? So this is a structural high and low. We are breaking it for the first time in a long time. Now, in uptrends, you're going to have pullbacks, and when those pullbacks happen, you're going to have downtrends in intraday timeframes, lower timeframes. So it goes in line with our bias based on the behavior that could be initiated, and that is a pullback to 0.052 for a continuation bullish. And I'll be perfectly honest with you, if we just drag this back down to the retest level, now that we have identified a level, a 69 pip move for me is perfectly fine. With Euro USD, 10, 15 pip stop loss, and you're looking for 1 to 3 to 1 to 4s, even bigger. Okay, so I'm not worried about where it goes after that. I'm just trying to figure out where it can go from here for when I enter the trade and where I expect it to go, and vice versa. So I think from an intraday perspective, this level is pretty significant for me based on the behavior that I'm seeing. I'd like to see the price coming off this level, potentially coming back for an intraday move back down to the lows. For buyers, I'm looking for price to bounce off 0.0052 for a continuation high if you're looking for those moves tomorrow. And if we don't do any of that, we start shifting all the way down and we don't manage back to this level, or I don't manage to take a trade off of 0.0052, then I'm just simply looking for the break of 0.195 retest and a continuation higher. You do not need to trade every pair, and if you have to make sense of it and work too hard to figure it out, then sometimes it is better just to let it go. Here on the daily time frame, we are seeing that USD weakness. So are we seeing strength on the CAD? Well, GU, we're seeing USD weakness. Euro USD, we're seeing confusion. USD CAD, we're seeing CAD strength. So if we go over to, let's say, maybe another CAD pair, CAD JPY, should we see this up? Well, yeah, we had a gap down, we had a continuation higher. So CAD is definitely showing signs of strength. And you can see here on USD CAD, we have that correlation. Now, again, this is similar to what we saw on GJ, beg your pardon, on Euro Yen, where price was failing to break the high. That's why I said you must be patient, because we've tried to break the high and we failed. It is a high that hasn't been broken again since July, and we have this bearish sentiment in the market. Now, let's say we took sales from the structural high. Where do we expect price to go? Well, back down to this level here. For the best part, we do have also, from a 4H perspective, we have an intraday trend. So this is indicating to us bullish sentiment, failure to break the structural high, higher low formation broken, and that's not true. The higher low formation broken. First lower high in the sequence, deep pullback into the key level, again lower high continuation, lower high continuation. So we can anticipate price to come back down to these structural lows at some point. So if I'm looking for plays here, we have an intraday retest level, which is this information here. But for a range pullback to 50% or back to a structural high, potential for a double top, we're looking for this information here. Be patient with this one. There's a lot of levels to be working with. So I just be mindful of that. Now, the reason why I like this level here, if we fail to break above it, is because this is the intraday downtrend where we make the structural low, retest in anticipation of the continuation. If we start pulling back, this is what I would call a deep pullback in anticipation of the continuation back down to some of these structural lows or even lower. And then finally, if price doesn't pull back to any of these levels and we have for some reason a strong move to the downside on the new daily candle, then we can start using intraday timeframes again to look for price to break these structural lows, looking for those retests and continuations back to these key levels here. And again, if we take a look at this range from this break back down to this low is 40 plus pips. On USD CAD, you can easily get yourself a 3 to 5, 7 pip stop loss using lower time frames and then taking advantage of these moves. I think for now, I'm going to stick to sells on USD CAD, waiting patiently for one of these plays to play out. I am liking CAD strength. I am in favor of USD remaining weak. So it will be interesting to see what happens. Again, with Euro USD, I think that the initial move to the upside was just a freak movement. So that means I am relying on Euro to be weak and continue down for the best part. And if we continue higher, then it just is what it is, right? My plays anyway are focusing on GJ, GU, and gold, but they're the ideas that I have behind those movements there. Looking at Aussie dollar USD now, we can see here again USD weakness. So again, we can see a daily candle pushing bullish, indicating USD weakness. The very interesting thing here is this, looking on the daily time frame, we can see the overall structure is bearish. Now, it's very interesting to see that we had a structural high, a retest back into the structural high, higher, low, higher, high. Then we had a new low, lower, high, lower, low. So I'm expecting a lower high here in this structure, or we have to just be mindful of it, should I say. And this is the retest level where price is coming back into. So if we're going to have that continuation of that USD strength, what we're going to want to start seeing is price breaking, closing above this structure. Now, from a 4H perspective, we have an intraday downtrend shifting to a higher, low, high, high, low, high. And now we're at a very important level in the market to see if we can maintain this bullish sentiment and this USD weakness. So the most significant levels I'm going to be looking at for price to trade above the structural high or current structural high and low for a deep pullback continuation. Or it'll be very interesting to see if we can maintain this break above 68.83 and see a continuation back to some of these structural highs in and around these areas here. And the reason why we're marking these levels, guys, is because this is an area in the market where we could potentially see a reaction from. So that doesn't necessarily mean we want to be closing our trades. It just means that we want to be mindful that if we're in a trade, that we should manage it. All right. So this is going to be very interesting to see what happens from an hourly time frame. Again, you know, we are at a retest level again, even using the higher time frames here. See what happens. I think the plays will be 68.83 or the deep pullback back into the structural high and then a continuation higher. Again, just monitor USD strength, see what is happening. You can see from an intraday perspective, we've shifted to a bullish sentiment. So that's my views on Aussie dollar, USD. Next pair we'll take a look at is USD Swiss franc. So looking at the daily, we have again USD weakness here, guys. And you can see we've had that for quite some time. Pretty similar to some of the structures we've seen already from USD CAD and Aussie dollar USD. Failing to break the structural highs. We're in transition. We've got this beautifully clean traffic all the way to the downside. We didn't even pause for a second here at 96.30. We just smashed straight through it. We had a gap down in the market, attempt to push bullish here, failed to push bullish, and now we have that bearish sentiment. Long-term targets at the end of the week, structural lows at 94.10. Looking at the 4H time frame, again, pretty simple structure. Always be following structure because it talks to you and it tells you a story. We have a structural trend that has been broken, brick will break the high and low structure here and just absolutely crushing bearish sentiment move to the downside. Structural lower high here, we'll look for that for the deep pullbacks here, and then we'll go to the hourly time frame to look for those potential break and retest zones, which is in and around here. We have previously respected it, so that'll be interesting to see moving into the market or new daily candle open. If we get a reaction from this level to continue bearish, if not, we'll be looking for some sort of deep pullbacks into 96.12. So this is something that I'll be looking out for moving into tomorrow. Long-term targets 94.11. We will assess the market tomorrow and see what is happening. I'm not going to go into any lower time frames on this one as of now. So final pair we'll take a look at is New Zealand dollar USD. Again, USD weakness here, guys. Okay, simply put, we'll mark our structural low and then we're going to mark the current structural low for a potential retest. A break, retest, move to the downside, back into a key level. And now we want to start seeing price breaking above this if we're going to continue bullish, okay? Very important that we see that sentiment. We have to continue with buys for now. If you look at the 4H time frame, again, you'll see that we have a structural break, structural high, low, structural high, okay? So with that information now, we want to see if price respects this structure. If we do, we'll be looking for that shift, and then we'll be looking for that break below this level. Once you get that break below this level, you want to start using scaling down techniques to look for potential retest. If you're looking for those key level trades as part of the higher time frame, or if you're going to be sticking with the overall bias, which has been bullish at this moment in time, until the market tells us otherwise in terms of USD weakness, then we're going to be looking for this break above these levels here, and then this continuation higher. Could we be pulling back? Of course, we're in a push phase. A pullback is inevitable at some point, so let's start finding some information we can work with here. So the initial move started once we broke out this consolidation. So this will be very, very interesting to see how price comes back to this level for a continuation higher. If you're an intraday trader, you could take advantage of the range break and the exhaustion back down to these lows. Or if you want to wait patiently, then you can just simply wait for price to come back to this area here for a potential retest at 61.19, and then for that continuation and see if we get that break above the structural high at some point this week. If we do, then we're looking for a continuation bullish as part of this initial sentiment, which is USD weakness. I do not think I'll be looking for anything else as of now. So that's my bias moving into the new candle open in about 2 hours and 15 minutes, guys. Again, this is my opinion. This is not facts. Whatever I'm telling you is just my observation of the market. So please don't bank on this to work for you. Make sure you're using your strategy, your own initiative. to identify your potential setups in the market, wait for your signals or whatever it is you're trading, and then look to take the trades. That's it for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you do, show me some love, hit that like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe and turn on notifications. And if we get enough love on this video, I'll be back tomorrow to do the same thing. All the best trading tomorrow, guys. I wish you nothing but the flipping best. Have a fantastic trading day. It's just one day out of many. So just take it easy. Don't rush. Don't chase. Don't jump in too early. Wait for your signals. Wait for your entries. Pick the best pairs that you really resonate with and really understand. And then once you get that signal, go hard, man. Simple loss is a simple loss. Good risk to reward. You make it back easy peasy, baby. Anyway, guys, as I always say, continue to trust the process.